Good morning, good afternoon to everybody from wherever you're tuning in from. This is the Ability Talks podcast with Elizabeth Patterson. Today, I feel like I'm having a fangirl moment. I am so happy, so delighted to have my own blood, my family, Agnes Apiapo. Am I allowed to use the full name?
Sure, go
Agnes
ahead. You
as my
forgot the
guest.
blood spot, but that's fine.
As my guest today on Ability Talks. Agnes and I will delve into who she is, but more the crux of the conversation will be about how she has also journeyed through parenting as a woman with I don't know if you would want to share, but I was a woman with mental health issues and also experiencing mine and the family's journey through me recovering from the accident. So Agnes, thank you so much for being my guest today. We'll start by you. I just gave a little snippet of who you are, but you're bigger than my 10-second description. So please introduce yourself.
Well, first and foremost, thank you. Also, first and foremost, can I call you mommy or do I have to call you Elizabeth?
Whichever one you want to use.
Okay. Thank you so much for having me, honestly, to all of your listeners. Thank you for tuning in. This is very, very special for me. I think we tried doing something like this, sitting and talking. It's been a few years, but I'm glad that this is the moment that we get to do this together. As my cousin said, my name is Agnes Apia. I also go by Ama, so you could call me Ama too. I am a professional MC, storyteller, and a host. That is my profession, I would say. And I'm a mom. You know, I have a little toddler, 3-year-old. And I guess one of the things that I really enjoy doing is like connecting with women, sharing stories. I love having fun. Obviously, if I'm an MC, I must love having fun. And yeah, I guess maybe I could just add that my favorite Ghanaian meal is maybe red. Let's keep it simple.
So for those of us who don't know what red is ripe plantain. And do you like it with just as it is or with beans?
No, you need the beans.
You need the beans to make it, and the gari to make it.
The whole 9 yards.
All right. So Agnes and I were both the elders of our family's children. We were both born in Ghana, and then by some circumstance, our parents took us outside of Ghana, right? So can you talk to us a little bit about being born here and then going to be raised in Canada?
That's a big topic.
Okay.
That is a big topic because, I left Ghana when I was 3.5. And sometimes I'm actually embarrassed to tell people how long I've been in this country, but it's fine. I left Ghana when I was 3, right? And now as a mother, and I'm looking at my 3-year-old, I could only imagine how confusing it could have been for me, right? I can't remember a lot of my childhood, unfortunately, but I know that as I grew into adulthood, there was a lot of like identity crisis, trying to find myself. There was part of me that, yes, I know that I'm Ghanaian. I was born there. We cut my, how do we call it? My umbilical cord.
Umbilical cord, yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Like, Charlie, I'm planted there. But then I'm also Canadian. Right. So I battled with that for many years and even until now, right? Like, it's just maybe like 2-3 years ago, I was having a conversation with my friends and she made this emphasis on, do you realize we're like Afro-Canadians? Like we're Africans and we're Canadians. Like this is big and we have a story. And that's why I was like, I guess. But most of the time when people ask me, I just tell them like I'm Ghanaian. Right, that's the first thought that comes to mind, and I think one of the reasons why is because of the way that my parents raised us. I have 2 other sisters, but specifically me because I'm the oldest, as you've mentioned, Elizabeth, and like they made sure that I knew where I was from in every way.
Right.
possible, right? From the
So,
food to the discipline,
mhm.
yeah, to all of
Yeah.
that. So yeah.
So I began with this question about you being born in Ghana, just to as a background for when
Mhm.
you came back.
Yeah.
That sounds like such a cliche thing to say, but when you first returned, that was in 2006,
6. Yeah.
three years after my accident.
Yeah.
Um, we all, it wasn't, I don't think it was, we didn't call each other. I don't think our parents called one another to coordinate when we would all be
Mm.
in Ghana, but
Yeah.
you happened to be in Ghana at the same
Mhm.
time that I was here recovering. And I
Yeah.
just wanted that context. So what was your experience like coming? So just to go back a little bit, when my
Mhm.
family went to the US in 1995, we went to live with my uncle Ofayao.
Oh
And
yeah, you guys were around
everybody,
for a bit.
we were there for about, I think, a month or two. Why?
Yeah.
Because parents needed the room and the space to find us adequate housing, a
Mhm.
decent place to live, and a school for my sister and I to go to. So we
Okay.
went to Canada for a month
Mhm.
to live with the
Mhm.
cousins and the family that we had only grew up speaking to, I think, on the phone, but not really ever met, except for Ofayao,
Mhm.
right? So
Mhm. Mhm.
we had the privilege of spending the entire summer with the family. And
Mhm.
that was such a, I can't speak for my mom and my dad, but I'm sure that was such a great help for us,
Mhm.
for them.
Mhm.
So they had the space to prepare for us
Mhm.
coming back. So when
Mhm.
you returned to Ghana, the next
Mhm.
time I saw you, we were both grown people. I
Mhm.
was 10 then, you were probably 11, 12. And then,
12.
yeah,
Yeah.
so you're not that much older than me. So
Girl, I'm your
anyway,
elder now. Okay.
so then when we saw each other again, I was 21, 22, and you were 22, 23. And
Mhm.
the person that you met so many years ago was not the same person. I don't know if you have any reflections, any thoughts on our reunion.
So, I think you forgot a little bit. We had seen each other because I was coming to New York. Like I had seen
Forgot.
you. You don't remember? Okay,
No.
yeah. We came to. I have like pictures when Auntie Agata had Angel.
Mm-hmm.
We had come at that time, and I think we came like probably a second time. So I had seen you even before, in your, let's say, in your
Mm-hmm.
teenage
Mm-hmm.
days, right? Definitely did. And Elizabeth, one other thing is, I don't know, like we have a vibe together. Like we're always just vibing. By the way,
We're
last
probably
year
the
we
two
were in
cousins
Bali
who are
together.
connected out of all of us. Yeah.
Yeah, I think, yeah,
Yeah.
you and I are. We were in Bali together last year at this
Mhm.
time. But anyways, I digress. Back to your question.
Yeah.
So I would say not compared to when you were 10, but just compared to when, like the last time I saw you as a
Mhm.
teenager.
Mhm.
Um, if I remember carefully, I did see the difference in
Mhm.
terms of just like your way of like expressing yourself.
Okay.
um I think it was more of like maybe like a memory thing, or just kind of recollecting certain
Mhm.
information, the way like just, I don't know how to explain it. It was more of like just the communication was a bit
Mhm.
different, right?
Mhm.
um and obviously, like, from apart from that, I don't know. You were still doing your thing. You know what I mean? You were still going out,
Mhm.
regardless of the fact that you were taking these treatments to get better.
Uh-huh.
I feel like I remember when my father called us. I'm sorry if I'm getting emotional, but I remember my father called us and told us that you were in a severe accident,
Mhm.
and according to what he was saying, they weren't sure if you were going to make it.
Mhm.
And I think at that time, like, I think I didn't have like, it didn't make sense to me. Like, what do you mean? And then they were explaining how you were the only one
Mhm.
that I don't know if they said the right story, but like they were like
That's some version of the
came out,
story. I was the
yeah,
only,
you know,
yeah,
the only one that
yeah,
was thrown out of the
yeah.
bus and all that stuff. And I was like,
Mhm.
what? Like,
Mhm.
how? What is that? What does that mean? And at that time, I was like holier than thou, right? So it was just
Mhm.
like, God, what do you, asking God all of these questions, definitely praying for you. So when I saw you again, from what I was told to what I saw, girlfriend, you
Mhm.
are such a miracle. You are a miracle. And I think I've told you this thousands times,
Mhm.
that you are an inspiration, because I don't think that a lot of people would have gone through what you went through and
Mhm.
still being able to be the boss lady that you are.
Mhm.
Like, I don't know how many, I don't know what the percentage is, but from what I recollect again, apart from just like some of our communication,
Mhm.
you're just very like this though.
Mhm. I
Like
am.
very
I'm
boom,
still that
boom,
way.
boom, boom.
That way.
Right? Yeah.
Yeah.
And I
Yeah.
think it was just a little new for me, because I think
Mhm.
when we were a bit younger, there was a bit more play
Mhm.
between us in terms of convo. But that was really the only thing
Mhm.
that seemed, there was, I don't recall anything
Okay.
else. Yeah.
So, Agnes just mentioned communication issues, and I just want to give a little light to that. I've mentioned in other episodes of this podcast that the accident gave me a traumatic brain injury, and that just means a part of my brain got hurt, and it does not function as well as other parts of, well, this part of my brain got hurt, the left side, and left side affects right side functions, right? So mobility has been impaired, but aside that, cognitive has been severely damaged. And thankfully, with all the therapies and everything, and me being so disciplined, when she described it, I think I can be disciplined if that's the way you want to see it.
Well, you're a Capricorn, so makes
Yeah,
sense.
me being that kind of a person, um, I've I found ways to really manage and navigate through life. But one of the residual effects that 22 years post accident, I still, on some level, experience is the short term memory. I keep glancing back at my book because I don't want to forget what I wrote down. Short term memory issues. Um, I can remember things from back when we were in Ghana before we went to the US, but sometimes I can't even remember what we just had for lunch or what we had for breakfast. And it's just that part of the brain that has been impacted or impaired, that I had speech therapies, cognitive remediation, all these things just to be able to function like a quote unquote normal human being. And you didn't notice, maybe you didn't notice, but at the time I was also wearing a foot brace. And so as much
Yes,
as we were going
I
out and
remember, of course.
doing all the things, many times when we go out, I think I was the person recording us or taking pictures. And on very few occasions would you catch me publicly dancing and
Yeah,
or moving then, and
yeah,
maybe even now also. But it was probably because of that.
yeah.
I don't know if I want to say I was embarrassed, but I was embarrassed for people to see me in my leg brace, and maybe that never connected with you or for you.
No, honestly, I did not ever think that you were embarrassed, because girlfriend, you were showing up. Like, you know what I mean? For me,
Uh,
somebody that's embarrassed is somebody that doesn't
mhm,
choose to show up.
mhm.
But you still showed up, right?
Yeah.
You still went to the things. You still did
Mhm,
the things. Like,
mhm.
yeah.
So
But
yeah.
I think that, you might obviously, like, it's your experience, and I do remember you had the brace, and you had like your arms was also
Mhm,
wrapped,
mhm, mhm.
with the medicine that they
Yeah.
were doing on you. Yeah.
Yeah. So the family came back mainly because Western medicine had brought me or us but so far. Um, Surgeries were able to keep me alive, and then being from this kind of uh, cultural perspective, I'm sure somebody must have told my parents, "Oh, bring her down for Bibidro," which is traditional medicine. So we came, and then another cousin of ours found a medicine man who would come to the house, I think twice a day, to do, as Agnes said, he would wrap my arm with my arm, and I think at some point the leg also, with these herbs that I don't know to this day what was in the concoction, right? So he would bring that, and then we would start each session. He would have something boiled, and I would have to inhale it under like a towel or something. And for me, it blows my mind that this elderly man kind of had a sense of the muscle groups and which joints to even treat. Like I just had a massage therapy session yesterday, and the lady was just hitting at the elbow, the wrist, because to this day we realized that if those parts of my arm release, then maybe I could get some kind of movement in the hand. And so for this traditional herbalist in Ghana to do this for me, I say I commend him, I applaud him. And towards the end of the 1 year that I was doing the treatments here in Ghana, one day I lifted my arm up. I raised up my arm, and then we rejoiced. We were so happy. And as soon as the happiness
went high,
the arm came back down. So I want to shift to talking about you a little bit right now, if you're okay with
of course.
A woman who straddles your life in two worlds. I don't know if you ever feel like you belong in one place more than the other, but I know that you definitely feel rooted in Ghana and in Africa more so than Canada. And for experiences unbeknownst to me, I don't know if you know the root cause of what your mental illness, I don't want to, is it okay if I say illness? You were diagnosed with bipolar disorder a couple of years ago. So I don't know if you could share a little bit about that journey as well.
Oh, so not a lot of people know this. I don't think my parents know this.
Sorry about that.
So, I mean, personally, they did diagnose me with that, right? But one of the things that I'm also recognizing is that I didn't have such an easy childhood. Okay. And as much as, people will say, oh, you're in Canada, yay. My parents, they came to this land with certain expectations, right? And what happens when those expectations are not manifesting itself? A lot of times their anger and their frustration will sadly go on the children, right? And apart from that, there was just I think I was just a very complex little girl. And it was hard for myself to even understand what I was going through. I recall that I would have episodes where I would go like I would dissociate, but at that time I didn't know what was happening. I didn't know what it was, right? Where you just you're physically there.
Dissociate means.
So it's like you're physically in a space, but then part of you is shifted somewhere else. Your mind is in another place, and it could come to a point where sometimes you're heading somewhere, and then you don't even know why you're heading there or where you're going. And this is not something that I could have shared with anyone, because I myself, I didn't know what it was. I remember, unfortunately, my childhood, to be very frank with you, I remember bits and pieces of things, but it was really in my adulthood where the emotions started to become all over the place. Charlie,
Mhm.
1 minute I am the happiest person on the planet. The next minute I am breaking down, right?
Mhm.
It was just a whole like up and down waves here and there. And at that time I used to go to church, early adulthood. I used to go to church and I was very, very devoted in church, as my cousin would know. And they would pray. They would pray for me. They didn't necessarily know what it was. They would pray for me um immensely, like prayers, and I'll be very committed. And I remember once there was one of the elders or the prophets in the church, and I unfortunately I should have wrote this down, but I remember he said something to me. Sometimes they call you in like those charismatic Pentecostal churches. They will call you in the front and like say things. And he said something like, I'm paraphrasing, something like, this girl, she's a naturally very happy person, but then she has severe issues with sadness and anger. And if she's not mindful of that, it will bring her to her downfall. And I'm paraphrasing. At that time, it was like, some spirits has entered her, and they a bonfire, and we're just praying and praying, and Charlie, empire me above you. Hey, we've prayed prayers. Like, I was in church like almost every day. I just knew that there was something wrong, like emotionally. Like, I didn't know how to control some of my emotions, right? And it was more like, it's type 2 bipolar. So type 2 is more of the depressive moments. So mine, I go down, like I get depressed, and it takes a while to like go back up. But then I think I've only experienced like I know it in French, like hypomania, like the high highs, maybe like once.
I just grabbed my phone to Google manic bipolar.
Yeah, like I had type 2.
Yeah. Disorder associated with episodes of mood swings ranging from depressive lows to manic highs. So you're on your high, like she described, where you're bouncing off the walls, very happy, or very low.
Exactly. But I had more lows than highs. Mine was the very low lows, but for some reason I just knew how to hide those lows, because I didn't want anyone to know, but I just didn't understand myself. And obviously going to church, like, don't come and tell me. I remember in college I was going through those things, right? And I went to see, one of my teachers told me to go see the school counselor or something. And I went to see the school counselor, and from what I was sharing with them, they're like, oh, you really need to go see either a doctor or a psychologist, something like that. But they told me that you have the symptoms of clinical depression or something like that. I was like, what are you talking about? In Jesus' name, I'm doing depression. Hey, what are you talking about, brother? That was me. Like, I was just like, no, I can't be.
We're not depressed people. As people of color, especially as Africans, we don't get depressed, right? If anything happens, you just go to the church, you pray about it, and then somehow the spirit will come, and then the next day or the next second, you're supposed to be all better and shiny and new. So,
right?
Yeah, please continue. And then I would want to, you were talking about you were in school, in university, but in high school and in university, did you see the bipolar manifest in your education in any way that you can recall?
I mean, it's possible. As I said, was one of my teachers that told me that I need to go and see a counselor, because I was having a hard time, like a very hard time. And my whole life, I've had a very hard time in school. I forced myself to finish college. I was like, at least I need that college thing there. Like, I definitely forced myself to, thank you, to finish college. But as I was saying, like, in that journey, I just kept denying anyone that would ever speak any words of, like, just any words on me in terms of mental health. It was just like, yo, don't even try that. Like, I am a child of God, because there wasn't any education, there wasn't enough education for us to understand what,
Mhm.
mental health illness or challenges was all
Of
about.
course.
Like when we talk about mental health, well, now we thank God that it's you know there's more information out there. People are understanding a little bit more what it's all about. But back then it was like, and I think even for our parents, mental health is like wabadam, like
You're crazy.
like you're
Yeah.
crazy,
Yeah.
and maybe I did act a little crazy, but that was
And
not necessarily like
yeah.
it wasn't that type of crazy.
Mhm.
you know
Mhm. Yeah.
it was an emotional imbalance that
Yeah.
was happening within me. I
A
personally
chemical
think that it
imbalance.
stems from, sorry,
I said a chemical imbalance.
a chemical imbalance,
Yeah.
yeah. And I personally think it stems from like just the childhood, and just certain experiences that I had in my teenage years and adulthood.
Mhm.
It's all of that, and not being able to express those emotions and share, and you bubble everything up within you and you don't know what to do with it. So obviously something's going to happen to you. Your
Of
mental
course.
is going to show up in a different way, right?
Mhm. Mhm.
And fast forward to after I had my son, um,
I was gonna ask
I
about. Yeah.
I went low. I
Mhm.
went really low. I tried to stay up, and 2020, and I think when I had my son, 2021 was when I had one of my first manic episodes, and
Mhm.
that's where I had gone to see. I had my manic episode. I didn't know it was. I was doing a
Mhm.
bunch of things. Charlie, I was taking like 3-4 courses. I started to
Burn the boats.
I don't even know, I can't remember everything, but I was
Mhm.
just doing a lot. And I really
Mhm.
felt like I had the capability to do all of it. Okay.
Mhm.
I wanted to be like, I'm like, I have my child. It's time for me to, like, I just wanted to be that like entrepreneur, and started taking a
Mhm.
bunch of courses, a bunch of like counseling, like just a whole lot of things.
Mhm.
But after that, I can't remember how far back, but I went really low, like
Okay.
extremely low, to the point I couldn't pick myself up.
Mhm.
So thankfully I had a family doctor. I went to see her, and when I told her what I was going through, that's when she said that it sounds like you have type 2 bipolar. And
Okay.
once again, I was like,
Mhm. No.
so this is the first time I'm actually sharing this anywhere.
Mhm.
Like I've never shared this much details.
Thank you so
So
much for the honor of it.
so help me God.
Thank you.
And yeah, that's when she told me that, and I was like,
Mhm.
no, I ain't got, like, you guys need to stop
Mhm.
putting all these
Mhm.
words in my life, like.
Mhm.
um and then she suggested to take medication, blah blah blah. I refused the medication. I went to see a psychiatrist. I refused the medication. But one of the things they had were like these not counseling, like group sessions. So every single week I would go to those group sessions. It was in French, so I do speak French, but when it comes to like technical things, it doesn't register too well
Doesn't
with me.
connect. Yeah. Mhm.
Yeah, so I went, it was like, I think, a 12 weeks thing. I went to those 12 weeks. It was all right for a moment. I tried to delve back into like my meditations and everything, and I was doing all right, but then life circumstances and load at work brought
Mhm.
me back to another down, to a
Mhm. Mhm.
massive breakdown.
Mhm.
I had anxiety like I've never experienced anxiety before.
Mhm.
And that was just last year. And it actually happened twice. Oh my God. Yeah. So I had many breakdowns. Let's just put it like that. Okay, people? Many,
All
many
right.
breakdowns. But last year was so severe that at that
Mhm.
point, my doctor was actually not available. She was on mat leave. But she told me, if ever there's anything that happens, call the psychiatrist.
Mhm.
So I did
Mhm.
that. I called him. I went to see him. Lo and behold, it was a Black man. So that's
Thank
another big thing,
you.
seeing a Black man in the mental health
Mhm.
space. It was
Mhm.
very comforting to see, and
Okay.
I applauded him. Actually, I was just like, But that, I think it was just last year that I just accepted that, okay, fine.
Mhm.
Fine. There is, you guys want to call it bipolar? No problem. Let's call it like that and fix it. I just want it to be fixed. And that's all I wanted. I did not want to feel the way that I felt. I did not want to go down and be
Yeah.
in that depressive state anymore.
Right.
So I started taking medication, in which I'm still on and I'm hoping to get off of.
So I'm so thankful that you mentioned this, because a lot of us shy away from what we're dealing with, right? And if you don't name it, you're internally shaming yourself or whatever it is for being in this state. And so you went through the process, you named it, you owned it, and now you are getting, and I've experienced you getting the help. So you're getting the help, right? And I see
I am.
difference in the person that you were and the person that you are now. So I want to know if and how bipolar, type 2 bipolar, I didn't even know if there was type 1, type 2, but you've also educated me. Type 2 bipolar has affected your parenting in any way?
Ooh, in the beginning, I was not able to control the cries. I would either be crying with I'll be like crying with him. One of the lucky things though is that at that time my husband was around. Like he wanted to stay with my son for the first 2 years. So after I took my mat leave, he was on the father part, whatever it's called.
If you could reflect on how being bipolar affects your parenting, if at all.
Yeah, as I was saying, honestly, it was more of being able to, and I think, I don't know, personally, I don't think it affected my parenting, because I'm realizing like a lot of the things that I was experiencing, a lot of women experience it, like, especially if they're going through like postpartum depression. So it is possible that I was going through that too at the same, like, it was just a whole lot. I was just going through a lot. Okay. But as I said, luckily my husband was home. He wanted to stay with my son the first 2 years after my mat leave, and I went back to work. So whenever it was too much, he was there. And I think one of the most important thing, especially a woman that is struggling with anything, actually just as a woman, listen, having a partner is a partner that cares, a partner that loves, a partner that understands is very important. It is, I would say, like a lifesaver in some other way, because I think if it wasn't for him being around or present, I don't know. Well, I obviously wouldn't have a baby, duh. But if he wasn't like there, he was mostly at work, then it would have been challenging, very challenging. Yeah.
I mean, I applaud the partners who decide to be very involved when they're co-parenting, whether it is with wife, partner who has a special need or disability, or co-parenting a child who may be the child with the person with a disability or issues. So it's so important that we have that support. It helps. It really helps. So you and I, we straddle two worlds, right? Or multiple worlds and multiple identities. I want to have your views on what was the cultural reception of you being bouncing off the walls one day and then being low the next day? Has it ever manifested within the Ghanaian community for you?
That's a good question, and I don't think it did.
Okay.
As I said, during that time, the like people see, from the way people see me and know me, they know me just as that happy girl. Like I remember there was a brother that used to tell me, like, every time I see you, like, I'm joyful. C'est comme in French he would say, tu me donnes la joie de vivre. Like, you give me the joy of life, or to live, or something like that, right? So that's who I am in my natural state. Like, I'm just that girl, baby. Period. I'm also extra a little.
Yeah, little extra.
But that's just me, you know what I mean? I've just always been that jovial, happy, dancing,
Mm-hmm.
type of girl. So I feel like people have always seen me like that. So
Mm-hmm.
even if maybe I had, as I said, I haven't had many highs because I
Mm-hmm.
was high a lot.
Mm-hmm.
So um, I don't think it was something that people recognize. And if they did, they never,
You'll see
said
difference.
anything
Yeah,
to me.
right.
But I do remember that when there was this one girl, she's not Ghanaian, she's a Hispanic, one of my
Mm-hmm.
Hispanic friends from high school.
Mm-hmm.
She, when the first time I shared bits and snippets about my mental health challenges and just a bit of my story in college and everything, um, she came to speak to me. She told me that, you know what? I did recognize, because we went to college together after. Right? She's like, I did recognize that in college, you were totally different than who you were in
In
high
high school.
school,
Okay.
right? So, but she couldn't, like, she didn't know what it was,
Mm-hmm.
So it was really interesting to see that, okay,
Okay.
somebody did
Mm-hmm.
realize that there was a shift in
There was,
energy and
yeah.
a shift, right? So, yeah.
Okay. So
Did I answer your
on that,
question?
yes and no. I'm gonna bring it to the micro level. In the home,
Okay.
did Ophayo, Mates, um, Lisa, Vanessa, did any of them ever react to you any differently? And how was that? Um, Not to be putting you guys, I hope we could edit where needed because I don't have consent from any of these family members to be mentioning their names. But how did they react to you when you formally got diagnosed?
So as I said, my parents, they're
Mm-hmm.
I just told my mom like, I didn't tell her what it was. Because even
Uh-huh.
if I tell her, I wouldn't even know how to explain it to her
Mm-hmm.
for her to
Mm-hmm.
like understand it. But I did tell her that I'm going through a mental health issues and I'm,
Mm-hmm.
taking care of it. My
Mm-hmm.
sisters, when I told them, they're the first ones that I actually shared that with. I mean, they're my
Mm-hmm.
sisters, they're my younger sisters, so obviously I think at some point they must have been like, okay, yeah.
No surprise,
At some
I'm
point
sure.
they might have been like, okay. Because I remember one of my friends, I told her, and then she's like, okay. It's like, because it's one of those things where if you don't know, you wouldn't even think that there's an issue,
Mm-hmm.
right?
Mm-hmm.
Like, you wouldn't
Mm-hmm.
even think, you'll just think that it's just the regular everyday ups and downs of life, the ebbs and flow of life, right?
Mm-hmm.
But there's certain checkbox that you need to hit in order to determine that this is the diagnosis. And
Diagnosis, yeah.
apparently I hit a lot of them.
Okay.
But honestly, yeah, sadly enough, um I haven't delved deep into those type of conversations with my parents,
Mm-hmm.
and with my sisters. I just told them, and they were compassionate,
Okay.
and they were more like, yo, like, you got this, like,
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
the doctors can say whatever they want to say, but like, we know you, type of thing, right?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So that was more of the vibe that I was getting.
Yeah.
Yeah. And the same thing for my husband. It's like, that doesn't define you, right? It was the
Mm-hmm.
same thing when I shared that with him. He's like, okay, it doesn't define you. Initially, he didn't want me to take meds, but then when last year, when things went, I told him, I'm like, I'm gonna go take those
I'm taking
medications.
it. Yeah.
I'm gonna go just to save our marriage. I'm gonna go.
Right. So, I mean, you got this, and I've seen you in action. We were in Bali last year, as you mentioned, and managing the whole space and coordinating everything. I've seen you, and I know you're thriving and you're doing it. We're about wrapping up. Do you have any final words? I just wanted to say the whole point of this podcast is to highlight the abilities in disability. And hopefully, at some point, we'll shift from calling it disability to something else, right? So we're able, like, when I see you, I don't see you as a person with a limitation or a difference. I see you as the woman that you are. And even I think it was last year that you shared with me this formal diagnosis, like for the first time. So,
Yeah.
and I'm in awe of everything that you did throughout the whole conference,
Yeah.
the week that we, or was it 2 weeks that we spent together in Bali? I'm in awe. Is there anything that you want to share, advice, any final
Mm.
thoughts as we wrap up?
Well, sorry. Well, if you're in awe of me, then imagine how awe I am of you, baby. Because, girlfriend, I probably get it from you. I get the strength from you. Um, Maybe what I would want to say is, once again, thank you so much for having me. Thank you for being the first platform that I dive deep into my mental health
Uh-huh.
illness. I don't like using that word, but like illness. But it is something that is real.
Mhm.
Presently, I do just want to share that wherever you are in the world, especially, yes,
Mhm.
in Ghana, but those in the diaspora, that we've been taught that we gotta stay strong, because it's hard. It's
Yeah.
hard in these Canada, America streets. Mo mo te Ghana, mo na Hawaii, na mo page ma binye na mo start
Right.
a business. Na ma ha. Please edit that. But I'm just saying, like,
It
it's
will be good
hard.
for people to know because
Okay,
there's that
no
perception
worries.
that everything is rosy out
Yeah,
there. You would not
no,
believe that people reaching out for help just to travel outside. But yeah, stay
yeah,
and build our country.
and build, especially if you're like in your 30s going into your 40s, bro. You're just gonna come and struggle unless you. Anyways, that's a different conversation for another day.
Right.
But
Yes.
what I would want to say is, honestly, those in the diaspora, take care of yourselves. Don't be scared to seek help. Even those in Ghana, like I have
Mm-hmm.
certain people that I know in Ghana that and because I've had my own experience, when I speak to them, I have
Mm-hmm.
an idea that they are struggling with their mental health.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And I try to tell them, maybe you need this type of help, but they don't understand it.
Right.
Oh, yeah, and
Mm-hmm.
yeah, it's good to pray.
Uh-huh. Uh-huh.
But God has also given us wisdom, right?
Mm-hmm.
So I think it's very important, especially like Christian folks. Listen, pray, but also there's this thing that I say is prayer without action is a recipe for deception. So
Mm-hmm.
while you're praying for whatever that you need or whatever that's going on, take action. And maybe some
Yeah.
of the actions that you're going to take is to go
Mm-hmm.
see a doctor, go and see
Mm-hmm.
a mental health professional. If there are not many mental health professionals, look for something. Go online. Go
Mm-hmm.
online. You can find coaches,
Mm-hmm.
mental health. There's everything on social media right now. So
Right.
well, social media and just like online in general.
The internet.
But
Yeah.
yeah, all I would say
Mm-hmm.
in just terms of like the whole mental health thing, please take care of your mental health. Take care of your body, take care of your soul, your spirit, your mind,
Mm-hmm.
because it's all together.
Mm-hmm.
When you have a healthy mind, your body, you have a healthy body, healthy soul.
Right.
Yeah, live your best life. Life is short. So if you want to live your
Yes.
best life, just make sure you're taking care of yourself, okay? And I think
Definitely.
I think that's about it. Is there anything else I would like to say to these people? Yeah, I think I've said a lot. I said
Yeah.
my casa will brain tea. I'm sad.
I you said it all. As we wrap up, take care of yourself. And I think yesterday or earlier in the week, we did another shoot with another woman who from the Caribbean mentioned self-care for care for caregivers is also very important. So as we wrap up, take care of yourself, live your best life. Go ahead.
Okay, I just want to add this little thing you spoke about self-care.
Mhm.
I think self-care is very important,
Mhm.
but something that I've realized is soul care. Because a
Mhm.
lot of times we don't pay attention to our souls.
Mhm.
And our souls is what it pushes us to do the things that we need to do. It pushes us to live that purpose that we all have, right? So as much as we're doing the soul care part and taking care of like the self-care part, I think
Mhm.
sitting down, meditating, movement, tapping into like your soul, your spirit is
Mhm.
the biggest thing, because that's what fuels you. That's just what I've learned. I'm
Definitely.
out.
I would agree. Self-care, soul care, prioritize yourself, take care of yourself, all the good stuff that my sister here has just shared with us. Thank you so much for being our guest and for opening up in ways that I have never heard you open up. I hope and I'm sure our listeners will take a lot out of this. This has been Ability Talks with Elizabeth Patterson. Um, let's highlight the abilities in disability. Thank you so much. Thank you so much for being our guest today.